Since the first outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa, that's in Egypt on February 14 of 2020, the continent, which earlier recorded a lower percentage of fatality rate, now stands at 2.5% higher than the world fatality rate of 2.2%, according to statistics from the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Are these statistics actually real? Good afternoon, dear viewers. It's a pleasure to be with you again on this special edition of The Debate. And on today, we'll be focusing on health, especially the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. Today, we are hosting just a panelist who is going to be discussing with us about, of course, the impact, rather that's about the resurgence of COVID-19 in Africa, whether the statistics are real or not. Good afternoon, Dr. Ningwayam, and thanks for joining us once more.
Thank you. It's quite an exciting topic. But you will be surprised what I'm going to say about it. I have my own ideas about COVID-19. Okay,
I'm sure our viewers as well are going to be surprised, as you said. So we are going to get straight away to the topic. Dr. Ngwayam, let's begin. The continent currently has 3.4 million cases of COVID-19 and over 87,000 deaths, according to CDC, that's the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Even though scientists say the continent has been relatively spared, do you think that the resurgence of this pandemic in Africa is real?
I guess it's real because we have been told it's there, so we just have to believe it. Like I was saying, there's so much about COVID-19 that I don't know. There's so much about COVID-19 that we don't know. And the bottom line is that as long as you don't have any reference points or some truths, some verifiable truths, everything becomes hearsay. And you can't swear by any position, and that's what keeps me worried. In fact, when COVID-19 broke out in 2019, I was one of those persons following it up every day, trying to understand what it was and what was happening. And I guess that was the attitude of everybody. And this was just a new disease that came onto humanity, and you know, nobody knew where it was going to go to, and therefore there was this curiosity about it, and we followed it you know, very closely, trying to see how we could beat it. But a couple of months down the road now, almost a year now down the road, there's still some questions that we have to ask. You know, the COVID-19, the first phase, it gave us some kind of a break, you know, where we're taking some oxygen and some energy and drink a cup of water, and then look back again and say, but wait a minute, what was going on, and ask some questions. And it's in the course of asking those questions that I became even more confused. And therefore you see that probably I'm not going to answer your questions the way you would have loved me to.
I hope our listeners are actually going to love that. So you talk about the first outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the break that it actually gave us. Like many people were thinking that 2020 is going to take away the COVID-19 pandemic. But we have gotten into 2021 and we are hearing of a resurgence in Africa. What actually accounts for this resurgence?
Well, one doesn't know. One doesn't know. You know, we don't even know where it came from. If we and that's my problem. There are a lot of questions about COVID-19 that were not answered. Yeah, and I think I had a series of about 12 questions that I think I sent them to your WhatsApp, if you still remember. That was some time back. And then I had these questions in my mind because somebody asked me a question, and then I said, look, I can't answer your question because of this, and that. And I sent that out, and I also sent it out to a forum where there are some professors there of the university, and one professor, Professor Titanji, tried to answer my questions. I didn't want to continue to argue because sometimes, you know, back and forth doesn't help. I just said, okay, I'm happy. But, the questions still linger in my mind.
Let's still talk about this resurgence of the pandemic in Africa. Who are we to blame? Are they actually the government of African countries, the population, or who actually are
that is a good question. Before you blame someone for
the
resurgence, let us wind back and find out where it came from. So you cannot start blaming people down the road when you don't even understand where the damn thing came from. You get my point? So if I were to ask you the question, where did COVID-19 come from, what would you say?
So many people have developed so many ideas about the origin of COVID-19.
Yes. And they have every reason to behave that way and think that way. And that is what is the problem. You know, I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but the Bible says, know the truth.
And it shall set you free.
Correct. It's a principle.
Yeah.
Know the truth, and it is that truth that will set you free.
I think that's the reason why the country of John Magufuli, that's Tanzania, they are actually believing in God. Like they don't believe that COVID exists, but the thing they say, if COVID exists, actually God is out there to save them. They are not in for any vaccine. They are not in. Even though they respect the hygienic measures, which everyone does even before the outbreak of the pandemic, but according to them, they believe that God can take care of everything.
No. I guess they are right to a certain extent, but Christians don't function like that. Christians function on truth, you know, and once you don't have that truth, you will still make uninformed decisions. So it doesn't matter what they're doing in Tanzania, it doesn't matter what they're doing in America, China, or wherever. The question is, what is the truth? Because you can only make meaningful decisions and carry out meaningful strategies if you know the truth. When you don't know the truth, you know, everything goes.
So summarily, the African continent does not actually know the origin of COVID-19.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Except nobody knows, except if we wind back the clock and go pick the little bits and pieces from where the thing started. You know, President Paul, yes,
in China, in
Wuhan, yes, and you know, what's that city again?
Wuhan.
Whatever city is that? You know, President I'm sorry, President Trump, he referred to this COVID-19 as the Chinese virus, all right? But yet somewhere the Chinese were also saying that this thing was brought from America and planted there.
So there's a lot of confusion about the origin of
and then when you read, then you hear about these high-level, high-security viral labs in Wuhan and so on that were set in place by the French, by the this. So face value, you believe what is said, but when you begin to see some intricacies and what is happening with these multinationals and whatever, at the end you just get lost. Nothing is very clearly set. You can't say this is the person who is responsible or that, you know, because there's a lot of information that spins around, and you don't get a head and you don't get a tail out of it, and in all of that confusion we get lost. So the question, for instance, is the COVID-19 virus, did it just come from nature? Or somebody took it from nature, modified it, and planted in humanity? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
And that's why there's a lot of myth about the COVID-19.
Good. Because it was a virus that came from nature, and we are all subjected to that virus, you know, with no questions asked, or with no reservations on our minds. A lot of things will just happen. Like, for instance, oh, the vaccine is out, we'll all clap for the vaccine and everything. But when we nurse the possibility that it could have been created by man to hurt man, that it was created by man to reduce, you know, human population, and that it was created by man for some reason that we can't tell, just because man is wicked. When you nurse that as a thought, then everything else that man is doing becomes questionable. Because, you know, to be able to be open-minded about anything, you want to know whether the person who is trying to help you is truly trying to help you, or he is just looking for a way of carrying out his agenda and hurting you the way he had planned to. Are you getting that?
I understand you clearly.
Yes, those are the questions I have. For instance, we hear a lot of stories about this COVID-19. We hear a lot of stories about Bill Gates, and then there are even some old videos that are coming from the archives to show that this COVID-19 had been programmed somewhere. People have been talking about it
even before it existed.
Yes, so you begin to wonder: was it a planned thing and it just exploded at the time that it was meant to?
And there's even a book that talks about the COVID-19, and it gave the year that it was going to appear in the world.
That's right. That's right. If it is a natural thing, where did you get that from? Where did you get that from? Can someone tell us when locust is going to come in Africa 30 years down the road?
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody is going to do that, then you would have programmed it
mm-hmm.
to say that it's like a time bomb. At this time, you should get going.
Mm-hmm.
So wow, I mean, if somebody shows you evidence that it was planned like this, who are we to turn down such evidences?
Let's leave your questions a little bit for a while, and we talk about the vaccine. Like so many African countries have been going for the option of the vaccine. We have Seychelles, we have Guinea, we have Egypt. That's the first country that, of course, recorded the pandemic in Africa. We also have Zimbabwe and South Africa, which is currently the most affected country with a second, rather new variant. That is the 501Y variant of the virus that has affected South Africa. Do you think that by going in for the vaccine, it's actually a good measure to combat the spread of this virus?
I'm going to disappoint you that my questions would always be evasive. I mean, the answers to your questions will always be evasive, because we are not building a house on a firm foundation. And it doesn't matter, we can be going around for the next 100 years. I will not answer your questions probably in the affirmative, because as long as I'm not working on a firm foundation, everything else is out of the window. It is a firm foundation that gives you the opportunity to make informed decisions and to say, I pick A and not B. I pick Y and not X. Because you're going to ask me, why did you pick Y? I picked Y because. I picked X because. But when I don't have that background, when I don't have that confidence on my foundation, it becomes very difficult. So you're asking me the question, Gwanyam, if someone showed up with a vaccine now, will you take it or won't you take it? Would you allow your family to take it or not? That's the point of question you're asking me. It's not, forget about South Africans, because if you're talking about someone else, you could guess and say whatever you want. But let's talk about me and my family. What will I do? Are you getting the question?
Actually,
if I cannot make the decision for myself,
then you cannot make it for someone else. Yeah.
Why is it so? Because, like I said, if the vaccine were a natural phenomenon, we will clap for these people who have found if the virus and the disease were natural. We will clap for the people who have found a vaccine. But if it was man-made, then the vaccine is still part of the program.
Actually.
And then the man will be saying, I'm giving you the vaccine to help you. But he needs first to answer the question, why did you first give me the disease to kill me?
Before helping you.
Yeah. So you were sitting there, nature was quiet, you created a vaccine to kill me. Then a virus to kill me. Then after that you create a vaccine to help me. What was your motive? It's just like with the computers. The computer is there. Somebody does the programs to run the computers very well. Another person creates the virus to nail the computer, and then another one. And the very person who created the virus to nail the computer, he creates an antivirus to help the computer. So at the end of the day, it's just dishonesty and money making. So once we have this kind of a mindset in the world, and now we are not talking about an ordinary computer. We are talking about life and death. Did somebody create a virus to kill me? And the person who is creating the antivirus or the vaccine to help me, is it a neutral person, or is the very person who is thought to have created the virus? Are you getting the point?
Yeah, I understand. Let's assume that this virus was man-made.
If it was a man-made, I would ask everybody to run.
Okay.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
If everybody runs, that means the virus is still going to kill them.
No. Let's put it this way. Just go over the question. If we can ascertain that this virus was made by man, what should we do? So somebody sits somewhere, makes a virus to kill everybody, and we don't put him in prison. We clap for him. Then he makes a vaccine to help us. We clap for him. Then we take all the money in the world and give it to him and clap for him and bow to him and thank him. Are you getting the madness in the whole thing? That's what we are talking about. If it was created by man, and the same man makes a vaccine to say, I'm helping you, you'll be a fool to take it.
Actually.
You'll be a fool to take it. Because first he was so dishonest that he created something to kill you.
Like the world is developing,
Yeah.
Like, we also understand that there are a lot of technologies that are going out there, and we are not denying this technology, or we are not against, but it can still happen that we are supposing that these technologies, this pandemic was created via the new technologies, and it wanted to be tested somehow, and something went wrong. So what are you going to do in that situation?
Then the person should first own up to that. We were trying to create something for this purpose and it went wrong, and sorry, humanity is suffering. Are you getting me? But we have this backup to be able to help humanity, and therefore this is what we are going to do. Spill the beans.
But you also know that man is a dishonest being. So
okay,
the person cannot actually come out.
If a man is that dishonest and cannot come out, then why are you taking his vaccine?
What is the assurance?
What is the assurance that he's not continuing with his problem?
Actually,
that is the catch. That is the catch. Any relationship that you have man to man is based on trust. And while the person who did it has the technology and has the knowledge anyway, whether it's true or false or whatever, and knows the in and out of everything, I are here in the dark. And he shows up with a vial of water and tells you is the vaccine. All you can say is yes. He tells you is this. All you can say is yes. So at the end of the day, he's injecting you something and you cannot swear by it. You only swear by what he is telling you. And how are you going to swear by what he is telling you when you don't trust him? Are you getting what I'm saying? When trust is out of the window, everything goes. And until the trust is re-established, you don't know what you're dealing with. That is the dilemma.
Okay, so let's assume that this vaccine was from nature.
Yeah.
And then
the virus.
The virus
from nature.
Thank you so much for the correction. The virus was from nature, and then the Chinese, there are several vaccines created by Chinese, India. There is the AstraZeneca, there is the Sinopharm, and there are other vaccines that are coming from different countries. So are you going to support that Africans take these vaccines?
Now, so your question is conditional. We are assuming that the virus came from nature.
Yeah.
Yes, if we are assuming the virus came from nature, then it's very likely that the vaccines that are being made by different persons are actually targeting the virus, and nobody has an ill intention, tied to it. But, and if the vaccines come from different sources, it's good in the sense that if someone were to try to lace the vaccine to hurt humanity, another person is not going to do the same. So humanity will still have an escape window. All right? But again, you don't know what all these multinationals agree at the top. Now, that said, there is still a problem. Because this virus is very tricky, and you have many people making it, 7 people probably trying to make the vaccine. And everybody testing their vaccine. Might be at the end of the day, 4 of the vaccines might be worth their salt, and 3 will be fake. Are you getting what
just
I'm saying?
like AstraZeneca. South Africa has stopped taking AstraZeneca because they say it's not efficient in treating the new variant.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know about those details. I didn't even care to bother, because I didn't even care about. I had all these questions. I don't have the emotional strength and energy to even be reading and following up the little arguments, because as long as all those other questions are lingering in my mind, it's like I have a mental blockage. Are you getting what I'm saying?
I understand.
But recently I heard that the Chinese came out with their own vaccine, but that the vaccine is a fake or something like that. Did you hear about that?
I haven't heard about the Chinese fake vaccine.
Yes, that they were sending it to Africa or something like that. So if that is true, then becomes very tricky. Everybody just wants to make a dollar. And therefore you will send container loads of something that is fake and inject them in Africans, and they will still be exposed to the disease, and you take your money and you go away.
Talking about the fake Chinese vaccine, there was something circulating on social media talking about actually one of the vaccines. It was written behind not for sale in the United States or in European countries, but to be distributed in Africa for free.
Good. That is the point. That is the point.
There was a lot of controversy, like why Europeans not using this vaccine? Why is it sent only to Africa?
And for free.
And for
why?
free.
Why?
Yeah, why?
So is somebody trying to test something and then using the black monkeys? Are you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Why such love? Why such love? There's a
Actually,
problem.
why such love?
If people don't really like you, and then they don't wake up at midnight and show signs of love, if you are wise, you should give some space and observe again. There's something in the formula that you are not getting.
Let's also assume that this vaccine came from nature, and
you mean the virus?
The virus, rather. I keep talking about the vaccine.
Yeah.
The virus came from nature, and then there are so many, of course, traditional medicines. Like there was one in Cameroon by
Bishop Cleda.
The Bishop Cleda,
yeah.
which has suddenly, I don't know where it has gone to. It's no longer effective in the treatment, but at first it was effective.
No, what we can say is that we cannot make the statement that it's no longer effective.
Yeah, actually.
Because we have never made the statement that it was effective. Are you getting me? But what happened was that we had this disease in the community, and the medication was given, and they tell us that it was effective. Tell us it was effective. Okay, but again, you know that with the infection with the COVID-19, a lot of people got well on their own. You just drink water and rest and do all those things, and you got well. And it's just a very small percentage that really had a bad outcome. Okay, so if you say that they took the medicine and got well, maybe it was just those people who had the natural progression. I say we need to do a refined test there, and in the meantime, the virus load in the country dropped, and therefore there were no pool of patients to be trying the medication on. You see the point? So we cannot say that it failed to work. Okay,
so I'm also going to talk about, you said just a very little percentage of the population, the unfortunate ones that lost their lives to this virus. Like, what can actually determine? The authorities told us that they lost their lives from this infection. But we also have families who testify that their patients, their relatives, or their fathers, mothers, and friends didn't die of the COVID-19 pandemic. So they became some kind of controversial ideas until there was a time when the government forces and families were fighting over corpses. So
it's still part of those polemics. Are you getting what I'm saying? Because it looks like this disease just showed up, and it looks like there was a money bag to be shared. And it looks like some people somewhere were using whatever statistics they could come up with, the more to get some money. You getting me? So patients who were sick of I don't know what were just labeled COVID-19. If they died from I don't know what, you were just labeled COVID-19. Are you getting me? And there have been stories about that, which are not very nice, because the health domain is supposed to be trustworthy, and when doctors start telling lies, then we are in trouble. That's the bottom line. When doctors, there are a group of people who, when they start telling lies, then the community is in trouble. When people in the medical field start telling lies, whether in Cameroon or anywhere in the world.
Let's talk about Africa.
Yes, when people in the medical field start telling lies, anywhere in the world, when people in the medical field start telling lies, then humanity is in trouble, because you need that trust. I need that as a medical doctor. There need to be a bond of trust between you and I for me to help you, and I need to be speaking the truth and doing the truth. I'm a surgeon, but if you didn't trust me and you had a problem, you won't come for me to operate you. Actually, I will kill you. Are you getting what I'm saying? And therefore, when there is no bond of trust between patient and the doctor, forget it. There's no healthcare. And that is what happened. That bond of trust has been broken because we didn't know, and we don't know what is happening. Is the doctor and other people focusing more on money than humanity? Did they join the rat race of the multinationals or something like that? So there is something somewhere that doesn't sound exactly right, and that is the problem. So you will remember when the COVID-19 came, it looked like any other person who was dying had COVID-19.
Actually, that's what the authorities made us to understand.
Yes, and then this is what I had to say even about the deaths from COVID-19. You know, it is said and understood that the disease is transmitted let's say if we're sitting at close range, less than probably 1.5 meters or something, and if I'm sick or you're sick and then you're coughing or sneezing, then the droplets can get onto me. Or if I touch contaminated surfaces and I rub my nostrils, my mouth or my eyes, I will tend to get the disease. And so that was it. So, but look at this. You cough or you cough and the particles are on the surface. Or a man has the COVID-19 and the germs are literally in his nasal passages, the throat and in the lungs. The man dies. You know, he kind of like seats the air when he is breathing and coughing and talking. So the particles come out. So as soon as he stops breathing, the particles are in him and everything stops. Which means that in a hospital setting, if we were to disinfect the man with eau de javel, bleach, because bleach in water, or like they say, washing with soap kills the thing also. So that means if we wash the corpse with soap and water, it will kill the germs. And so from the moment where you have plucked the nostrils and cleaned him everything, he's no longer contagious. And so what is this issue about fighting with people all over? You must bury in 48 hours. So you see, those are some of those questions that come to mind and don't make sense. Is it because from that material moment when you have cleaned him and packaged him, he's not very different from a log of wood. So what's the problem with it? Do you have a problem with a log of wood? So you see,
the people who were instilling these requirements for burial of corpses immediately after 48 hours, maybe they have the reasons why they were doing that.
No, it was just part of the to create that thing in the community. You know, they created more of fear.
Okay.
But in spite of everything, you have to sit down and reason things through. This is just logic.
And we also came at a point in time where many people were becoming scared of the virus, even when they didn't have it. They were already developing symptoms because your psychology played a lot with you.
That's right. That's right. You know, like I was saying, the issue of trust too has been broken because we have a history of what the white man has done to some people. So when it looks like it's a repeat of history. You know that the black man somewhere in South America there was injected with syphilis. Okay, that's in the 1950s. They injected black men with syphilis and they didn't give them treatment and just let them suffer so that they could study the disease. You get what I'm saying? And then it is alleged that, you know, when you go to South Africa, a lot of population is suffering from HIV. It was alleged that, you know, someone came with a purported vaccine to inject in South Africa, but it was all HIV. So they injected HIV to see, you know, for what reasons we don't know. And
I also know that according to statistics, it showed that it was just after 6 years when the AIDS vaccine was discovered. It was discovered in Europe, but only after 6 years when it was sent to Cameroon.
The which vaccine?
To Africa rather, not to Cameroon.
The
HIV vaccine.
Well, I don't even know whether there's an HIV vaccine already. If there's one, fine. But you know, after some time, you just forget some of these things. But you see the logic in it. And then I only understand that Ebola. I only understand that Ebola was also brought from somewhere and injected. So when you keep having these kind of stories, why should you just jump on something and accept from day one? And you know that black men are not liked in this world. They want to probably kill black men and come and take the land and the resources. So I'm not very sure.
I'm going to visit back it was also alleged that the COVID-19 came in from a woman in China who ate bats. These birds that fly, and that's when she contracted the virus. At a point in time, they had to ban bats, like the eating of bats, even because we know that in Africa, bats are actually used for traditional medicines.
Well, but nobody is going to kill to be killed if they didn't get treated traditionally with bats. But you know, those are some of those theories. A woman ate a bat and so on. But was the bat planted with the distance so that the woman could eat it? And then, you know,
that's what we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't
and then there was the other question. You know, when this thing just started, there was an issue of G5 internet. You remember?
Yeah.
G5 internet, and they were linking it to the virus. And then the worst part is the fact that they are saying that in the vaccine, there are some nanoparticles in the vaccine that when you are injected, those things recombine in your body and become a chip, so that you could be controlled by 5G internet. Did you hear about that?
I heard about it, and I even saw videos about it on social media. Like in social media now, everything is possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are just things that people tell us, but who are you to you don't even have the technology to even verify.
Actually,
so you just have to either believe or not believe.
Yeah. So we, at a point in time, we shouldn't blame African countries, African governments who are denying to take these vaccines.
Correct. Until some clarity in it. You don't just subject your people like that. And that now also brings to light our technological weaknesses. So everybody has got the technology except Africa. So what's wrong with Africa?
Except some countries in Africa.
Yeah, so being black is a problem, you see? So those are some of the questions we need to answer. Why is it that the black man can't also do what the others are doing? Those are the questions.
But you also know that it's evolving with time. Like Africa is going to be the continent that is supposed to be like, and I'm even sure that before we get to where the Europeans are, they must have discovered something. But we are also evolving. Africa is also evolving.
Yes, when you evolve, when you talk about Africa is evolving, there's a way of doing it. You know, there's technology all over the world. Technology in this is the question. What you have to do when you have come off, when you put on your thinking cap. We are not saying that Africa should skip from where we are now and go fighting in the laboratories with America to try to do what the Americans are doing now, because you won't even understand. But there's a lot of old technology, that things that have been discovered, done, and so on, that we are not even copying and applying. You need to be copying and applying the easy technologies amongst your people, so that there's a background growth. Are you getting me? Of technology and possibilities and production of goods and services that come up to speed. Reduce the gap. Reduce the technological gap by copying. By copying what others have done and doing it. Simple things. Why are we importing rice? Why are we importing fish? But if you are still importing fish and rice, your technology, your level of technology is very, very primitive. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Actually,
that's where we are.
Who should be blamed for this primitivity?
We blame ourselves. The white man did not stop you from learning the technology. But you have your schools and universities where you go there and learn subject, history, geography, this philosophy, and you spend your whole time arguing and drinking. And then you just have these big degrees and you cannot solve a problem. Whom do you blame? Do what the Chinese did. Like
we are actually blaming ourselves, because that's how we grew up. We are just inheriting. Like
that is how we grew up. The chain keeps. Is that how God wrote it in the Bible? Is it written in the Bible that we cannot change? Are you seeing the point? So if we are so dumb to change, that's our problem. We have to wake up and realize that we must change, because it is not written somewhere that we will not change. So if you are not changing, don't blame America, don't blame France, don't blame Germany, don't blame China. If you are dumb, you are dumb. If they come and deceive you because you are too stupid to reason, it's your problem. So it's left for you to wake up and do what is right, what is just, and what is good.
Thank you so much. We are still going to go back to the context of the COVID-19. We talk about the African Union that has made arrangement for member states to apply for over $7 billion funding after it is secured. That's altogether 670 million doses. That is according to the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention once more. With all these arrangements, less developed countries are still unable to purchase the vaccines because of vaccine nationalism. This is according to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. What do you think these less developed countries should switch to? Like, they can afford the vaccine, even though the African Union has made arrangement for them to take loans so that they can get these vaccines.
For them to take loans?
Yeah.
Which means they would have to pay for it.
Yeah, they will have to pay back.
Yes, but another way to reframe, if Dr. Ngwanyam, if you were the president of a country, what would you do? Are you getting me? That is, we still come to that point where someone has done something and you're putting me in a mess and I don't know my left from my right and I cannot make an informed decision because I'm caught in a trap. So if you're asking me, if an antelope is caught in a trap, what should it do? It's a trap. We're in a trap situation.
Yeah.
and the antelope has a knife, and the antelope can chop its leg and go away with 3 legs, or do something, what is it going to do? Honestly, we could stay here for the next 1 week and I will not answer that question, because I have no capacity to answer that question, because I have no foundational knowledge to answer that question. I am lost. You know, it's like a ship that is lost at sea, doesn't have its bearings, and you are insisting I should go to shore.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngwaya.
Sorry for disappointing you.
Okay, we are aware of the different myths people, especially Africans, have about the coronavirus pandemic, which we have talked about. What can we advise people with such myths? And I hope you're going to answer this one.
Yes, but which part of the coronavirus is not a myth? You understand? Which part? Yeah. Give me the solid part. When you give me the solid part of the coronavirus, then we can begin to identify the myths.
Maybe you're going to tell us the solid part.
I don't know. The solid part is I can only believe that the virus exists, and the virus infects through droplet, and that it kills. Okay, and I remember there's one South African doctor who did bronchoscopy on a patient who was suffering from a bad COVID disease. And then he gave the report that, in the bronchi, the secretions were too thick that they couldn't come out, and so he took his time and was tearing out this thing bit by. I don't know whether you saw it. It was on a video, and was tearing out this thing bit by bit and so on. So that convinced me that this is really something serious, and we have seen people dying, from the lung complications of the COVID. That is the only thing we can say, and is that if we try to protect ourselves by the various mechanisms they have given us, it will help. And I would encourage everybody: the hand washing, the distancing, the hand sanitizer, the face mask, and so on. Let us, while we are still debating what it is all about, let us continue with these preventive measures. Okay? That
brings me to my next question. I was just about to ask that many African countries like South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Rwanda, Namibia, they impose new restrictions. They have even ordered the lockdown of the capital, Kigali. In Rwanda, it's been completely locked down for about a week now. So in order so that the virus cannot spread to other parts, like, should countries like Cameroon impose these other restrictions, these new restrictions, by locking up so that we can, because a second wave of the virus, just last week, the governor of the Northwest region, Adolphe Lafrique, was warning against a second wave in Bamenda, because over 100 people got infected in less than 5 days. So should the government of Cameroon and other countries that are experiencing a second wave apply all these restrictions?
There is a question that I wish I could ask you. If you gave me the answer to that question, maybe I'll be able to answer your question. During the last CHAN games in Cameroon, you know that on the day that the Congolese team was going to play the Cameroonian team,
actually,
about 10 people were said to have been COVID positive, right? And then by evening, only 3 of them were COVID positive.
Yeah.
What happened? Could you answer that?
Actually, I'm going to leave that to the authorities, to those who did that, because we tried to find out what happened, but there was a lot of myth actually around that story, which we cannot actually tell.
Good. So that myth still goes for all the statistics that you quote. It still goes for all statistics. You see, you can sense that there's something that is not right.
Yeah.
It is that thing that is making every picture so confused. So when they say there's so much in the Northwest, was it the Congo results in the morning or the Congo results in the evening? Is it people trying to fight over resources and so on? So it's all these things mixed up, and as long as you can't trust a people and trust a system, everything goes. And then of course you know that there was the testing kit even for COVID.
Yes.
There was a reaction. Two people tried it and it reacted positively to Coca-Cola, and another person tried it, reacted positively to groundnut soup.
So we should stop eating everything in Africa.
No, it's not that we should. No. You're not getting it right.
I understand that if it reacted positive, that means he has coronavirus.
Yeah, okay. I get your sense of humor. Yes, it's just that the thing is not working well. So it's deceit. The tests are deceitful, So the statistics we don't know. So it's we are just at sea there, and there's just so much we cannot swear by. Yeah. And as long as I cannot swear by anything, I find it difficult to answer any question.
Okay, during the first wave of the coronavirus pandemic, many Western countries and governments, they were actually worried about the low death rate in Africa. Like, they kept posing the question, why are Africans not dying of the COVID-19?
Yeah, they could be asking that question if at all they created the vaccine hoping that it will wipe all of Africa, and it didn't do what they intended, then they have the right to ask those questions. Okay. I mean, that's the A part. The B part would be if they are genuinely asking questions. The A part, I mean, I'm just being sarcastic a little bit to say that if they had created the virus hoping that it will kill a lot of poor people, and then didn't kill the poor people, then they have a reason to ask. Are you getting me? But if they didn't create it and they are just surprised that it didn't kill people in Africa, I would like to answer that question by saying that, you know, if the disease didn't kill a lot of people in Africa, it's not because our presidents did a great job. It's not because our governments did a great job. It's not because Africans and themselves did a great job. I would say that it's just by God's grace.
Okay.
That's all.
Actually, God is there for all of us, and He's the master of all. Just like John Magufuli, they are all depending on God for the COVID-19 pandemic in Tanzania. I was just about to link that question with, does the pressure from the European country, does it account for so many African countries leaning towards leaning towards the option of a mass vaccination campaign?
When you are a beggar, like it says, a beggar has no choice. When you are limping, your economy is limping, your politics is limping, your development is limping, your education is limping, and you don't know the difference, well, you don't know the answer to 1 + 1, then people push you around. But when you know from where the sun rises and where it sets, then you are standing on solid ground, and you can dictate what you want and what you don't want. So when you are a nobody and you cannot answer a question, you get kicked around. Okay. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to still talk about John Magufuli. I don't know why I have so many references about his country. Still, according to him, on January 27, if the white man was able to come up with the coronavirus vaccine, then they should also be able to come up with vaccines that wipes away AIDS, malaria, and cancer. According to the health minister, Dorothy Ngwajima, it is rather encouraging an improvement in hygiene, use of sanitizers, inhalation, and herbal drinks. That is, Tanzania is also for the use of herbal treatment in the wiping out of the coronavirus pandemic. And we all know that scientists have proven that just the first option, that the improvement in hygiene, use of sanitizers, it actually works against COVID-19. Even though Tanzania hit its statistics that since May of 2020, when the country lastly updated its statistics on 500 cases, no news have been heard from them. What do you think is happening here? Are their traditional inhalation system, are they actually helping matters, or they are just trying to make us not to know what's actually happening there?
I don't know what is happening in Tanzania. I wouldn't want to go into it. On social media, I've seen some boxes that people go in and they inhale some smoke or things like that, with some military men standing around. I don't know about it. But let's say that the COVID-19 is all over the world, so to speak, and it's good that Tanzania is doing a different thing, so it's a control to the experiment in the world. Are you getting me? It's a control to the experiment in the world. But I can't really say very much about what they are doing. I just hope that God is giving them the wisdom to do what is right. And you can't push them. You can't push them to just do anything if you don't answer the underlying questions about what is going on. So is the president in that country, is he right? Is he wrong? God alone knows.
Okay, so let's still come back to the Cameroonian context. Like, when the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic was actually booming in the country, there were a lot of measures that were taken by the government, like in the entrance to Bamenda, there were hand wash points. To the southwest region, they even had the temperature check at Matazan going to Bamenda. But recently, nothing is there. Like, if you're going in, there's even no face mask check again. Like, the government has died down its measures, has died down its effort to implement these measures? I think that's the reason for the resurgence of the virus in Cameroon. Can you comment on that?
Let me put it this way. I want to first mention this, that I was observing, I was trying to see what is happening in nature with the other, before COVID-19 came, during the dry season we would have a lot of cough, catarrh, and these other upper respiratory tract infections. But you would have noticed that with the measures that were put in to fight COVID-19, the ordinary coughs and catarrhs were not as much. If you paid attention, they were not as much. Which means that those measures are effective and are helping. They might have been measures for COVID, but those measures protected us against the ordinary cold and catarrhs and so on. We are not a people who are used to hand washing. And because we were forced through the COVID to be washing our hands, our level of hygiene improved. You will know that there's some people who even go to the toilet and don't wash their hands after that. So you would have noticed that probably things like diarrhea diseases which come from food contamination and so on, all those things they reduced because hand washing became a way of life, sanitation became a way of life. But like you observed, some of these measures are not being respected again, and the clock is being won back. There had to be a balance when government at some point opened up bars to try to help the economy. It gave the wrong signal to the community, like the COVID-19 was not there.
Over,
and then people started to drop the vigilance on the hygiene methods and so on. That's when it started. We thank God that nature also took care of the COVID virus, and then it kind of like just piped down. But you will realize that when the COVID comes in, trying to implement even those preventive measures is a little bit tricky because of the way we are settled, because of the way our economy is built, and our education. Let me explain. We live in very crowded environments. And the homes are tightly packed, especially here in Douala, and there are so many people in one home.
Especially with the ongoing Anglophone crisis too, that's caused the migration of so many people.
Which means that, and the temperatures are hot. It's very, I mean, it's hot. Which means that even when you ask people to stay at home, it's a very difficult thing. Because usually they just enter the house to dive into bed and sleep, and it is the night time that constrains people into those small spaces where they're just sleeping and probably sharing 3 a bed or 4 a bed or something like that. And in the morning, they have to create some space, and there's no space in the home. The space is on the outside, on the outside, on the street, on the fields, in the market or something like that. That's how people get dispersed. And therefore, keeping people off the streets and off the markets and sending them back home was very tricky. Are you getting that point?
I understand.
And then, if you had gone, and then our modes of transportation, we are always packed into the cars like sardines on motorcycles and so on. And when you say don't pack in the motorcycles, with the high fuel prices and so on, the drivers don't break even and so on. So it was creating a lot of difficulties. And when you went through places like in Ndokoti, like the Ndokoti, in Ndokoti Junction.
I know the junction.
Yes, during the peak of the HIV thing, the corona thing, it was even very difficult to manage that area. So people will still come there because they must bypass and cross and so on. So it's technically very difficult to implement, and that's why when I look back, and I can only say that God is with us, because humanly, if it were just because of human contact and many of those things, we would still have been nailed.
Actually. So we are still in Cameroon, where you mentioned about the Champions League, that the African Nations Championship, immediately after the African Nations Championship, it was the Youth Day in Cameroon, and they had to suspend the activities of the Youth Day, the March Past, because of the fear of the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, just days before, there were people in the in the fields watching the matches, and there was no obligation for you to show a negative, rather, COVID-19 test before going into the field. So after this, and then after the banning of the Youth Day in Cameroon, like, a lot of people were wondering what method the government is trying to use to prevent the spread of this virus, because how can they allow the ongoing African Nations Championship with people coming in from the country with even the virus, because so many out of the country players tested positive for the virus, people coming into the country with the virus, and our own students who are supposed to enjoy their Youth Day, because Youth Day means a lot to some people, especially children in primary schools.
Yes, Youth Day might mean a lot to some people, but coronavirus is also, it means a lot to the health system and to the nation. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
It's about choosing the less of two evils. That's it.
But I haven't landed with my question. Like, I wanted to say, was the government aware that stopping these children from going to the match pass, was the government aware that I did some interviews, I went to the market, the street, the students were just there, even down here playing, holding hands. What measures did the government take to combat all this situation?
No, the students were playing, holding hands and so on. That's a situation that has been existing before the Chan came in and before the 11th February came in. So life was just continuing on the same pace. Are you getting what I'm saying? 11th February or not, life was just continuing at the same pace.
Yeah.
But you will notice that during the football games of the Chan, only the seats were filled only to 25%, not 100%.
But even when the seats were filled up to 25%, we also witnessed a case where there was, I don't know how to put it, but there was a time when fans were just rushing in until they had to get in contact with the security people who are blocking the field. Like, they just wanted to get into the field. They got in contact with each other.
Yes, that is part of human behavior. That was how do you put it? I think that was it in Limbe or no? It was somewhere?
It was in Japoma.
It was in Japoma.
Yes.
People were angry about something, and then they invaded the pitch and so on. It was kind of like violent, right? It was not really. They didn't invade it because they of love. It was a kind of like a violent kind of thing, but you know, nobody could foresee that. Are you getting me? It's part of human nature. You can't foresee that. It's not like you look in a crystal ball and you know that it's going to happen.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your kind attention. It has been politics. This is a program for politics. It's a program for culture, social health. It's a program, of course, for education, and why not COVID-19. Today we are focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has been an exciting edition with Dr. Nguayam, even though he escaped from so many of my questions.
Yes. I had to escape because I don't want to mislead the public on things that are not true. You know, I can only tell you what is
on
truth.
Things that we don't know the truth.
Yeah, when we don't know the truth, I cannot be kind of like figuring out things and telling you that I cannot swear by.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we close this edition, I want you to talk to African governments. What do you think they have to do to stop the resurgence of this virus in Africa?
Well, the virus is one thing. But the virus came to prove to us that Africa is not ready for epidemics. That Africa doesn't know how to brace up for unforeseen circumstances, and that is understandable because our economies are very weak, our educational systems are very weak, our political systems are very weak, our development is very weak. By development, take for instance the hospital sector,
Even though our healthcare centers are still very weak, but we are still being able to combat this virus with less developed infrastructures.
No, we are not. If we were not challenged, if we had been challenged like other nations, then you would have seen it. So to say that we are able to fight it, it's not true, because we can't even fight malaria, we can't fight cholera, we can't fight dysentery. You know, let's just say that our health systems are very weak and very primitive, and we are saying that we should sit up and try to beef up.
Okay.
Beef up first our educational systems, beef up which will help beef up our economic systems, to beef up our development and build the capacities in your youth to be able to solve the problems. You know, the COVID-19 came and proved to us that the king was naked.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been essentially on an African debate. It has been a Pan-African debate about the resurgence of COVID-19 in Africa. Are the statistics real? Thank you for your kind attention. We keep you the rendezvous for next Thursday, same time. It has, of course, been the debate with Dr. Nick Ngwayam. Thank you for honoring the invitation.
Thank you.
And I have been Promise Forsu, your host for this edition. Stay safe and remember, COVID-19 is real.